and welcome to another episode of A Curious Couple, the podcast built on the healthy habit of questioning the world around us. There's really so much to learn in and about this world, so literally question everything, discovering truth for and within ourselves. I'm Aaron.
I'm Angie.
And thank you so much for joining us today. We are thrilled to be talking about something a little more whimsical.
Ooh.
After my deep dive into meditation. It's going to be a fun topic. A little bit more fun, I guess.
I don't know.
Demons was pretty fun.
Demons was great.
I liked our Demons episode.
Go check it out.
Yeah. Anyways, today's episode is on mermaids.
Mermaid.
Merman, father.
Merman.
Yeah, we're going to touch on a bit of the mystical, a bit of the spiritual, a bit of the modern obsession of mermaids. Mm-hmm. Angie's going to be telling us a lot more than I am in this episode because she is more well-versed with the aquatica life.
Life.
Right? We're going to go from Ariel and the Little Mermaid to the logo of the Starbucks cup.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a weird mermaid doing splits. She's like pulling her tail apart.
Well,
All right, we're going to hang on. Wait a minute. We still have to follow up.
Following up on last week's challenge.
Yes. If you remember, last week's episode was all about meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And our challenge was to meditate for as long as you could, 5 minutes. I recommended at least 25 minutes because that's when I notice the change sets in. So hopefully you were able to meditate. I spent some nights alone without cell phone service and without television up at my parents' cabin by Kazi Dam this last week. And let me tell you, meditation in the pitch black with no one around and no kids, it's a lot easier.
There were goats up there.
There were goats. They scared the daylight out of me. There was just like banging on the front porch when I woke up and I opened the door and there's a goat in my face. I was like, "Wah!" And guys, goats have creepy eyes.
They do have creepy eyes.
Have you ever looked a goat in the eyes? It is terrifying.
I'm sure. Okay, but that's also like, I feel like horror movies for some reason use like goat eyes and goat faces.
This is true.
I don't know why.
This is true.
Actually, I do a little bit, but we're going to get into that a little bit.
We'll get into that later.
Another episode for another time and day.
But anyways, my meditation was great. I really enjoyed it. I did try my chanting meditations. Mm-hmm. Highly recommend if you don't feel weird. They really get you to different levels at a different rate. It just forces your brain to turn off. So if you don't mind being cringe, which we embrace the cringe at this house.
Always.
Anyways, so yeah, hopefully you join me. But let's dive into today's topic, Ange, before we bore everyone with like, okay, Aaron, shut up.
No. No one is bored of you. If they are, they're not listening to the podcast.
This is valid.
You're lovely.
Aw.
But no, we're going to dive into mermaid lore, which, being one of those mythical creatures, is just actually a lot trickier to find the origins of mermaid lore and mermaid history.
Oh my goodness, yes it is.
It's just, it's so deep and there's so many different versions and...
Well, and there's no clear beginning is what I found too.
Yeah, which is really tricky.
Yeah.
The most general consensus agreement on the first mermaid story is the story of Atargatis. So Atargatis is said to be the mermaid, first woman fish hybrid, I guess you could call it.
Fishy lass.
Yikes. She was an Assyrian goddess, and she was the goddess of the moon, fertility, water, and all feminine divinity.
Yeah, and these are definitely themes that stuck with mermaids to this day.
Yeah, to this day.
Yeah.
These are all very important themes with mermaids. And her story is that she fell in love with a mortal shepherd whose name was Adad, and they had a daughter together named Semiramis, who later became the queen of Assyria. Now, Atargatis caused the death of her husband by accident, and so she drowned herself in the lake due to all this guilt that she had. Mm-hmm. And she was still beautiful in death, and the waters transformed her into a woman with the tail of a fish. So now she'd become a mermaid.
There it is.
Which is also, I don't know how familiar you are with the Hans Christian Andersen mermaid story, but it is very similar of losing their loved one sacrificing themselves to the water.
Yeah.
It's another common mermaid theme. So Atargatis was worshipped in a temple for her in Israel for years and years and years. And this temple was made out of gold and diamonds.
Yeah, that's pretty, yeah.
It was very gaudy, but get this is my favorite part about it.
Okay.
So it had this massive pool full of living fish, and worshipers had to swim through the pool of fish to be able to reach the altar to worship her.
There it is.
Like, I don't know, but that just seems like super beautiful and divine to me. I love that. Both fish and doves were sacred to Atargatis. Doves symbolize love, and fish were the symbol of fertility and bounty. And it's funny because those are also Aphrodite themes. And Aphrodite is also to be one of the first sea-born female idols.
Exactly. Yeah. Aphrodite literally springs forth from sea foam.
Exactly.
And genitalia.
Another story for another time. So water is also the element of emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she transformed because of broken heart, because of emotion.
Okay.
And all mermaids contain the same elements within that of emotion and beauty and love. And also the healing powers of water. It's one of those mythical attributes that mermaids have, all these healing abilities. And Atargatis is also the goddess of transformation, which is a huge theme within mermaids as well, which also really correlates with the moon and fertility, being able to transform human life. She was just a very beloved goddess because not only did she have all these beautiful divine attributes, but then she also was very human in the way that she found love and the way that she sacrificed herself from guilt. I feel like that's a very human emotion that people feel.
No,
so
I love
it's
that.
literally half goddess, half man, half fish kind of combination we got going on.
I remember when I was looking it up, like doing a little bit of research on my own, just the themes of duality.
Yeah, so many.
So much. And transformation being a big one. And like you said, those healing powers. I read stories that the tears of mermaids could heal anything.
Yes, and same, there's also so many stories of a kiss from a mermaid will help a mortal man. I think the most vivid memory I have of that is like in Hook, when he is like falling into the water right when he gets into Neverland. He like kisses 3 different mermaids.
Okay, I forgot all about that.
Oh yeah, it's a very common theme in fairy tales.
See, and the only one I could remember was Pirates of the Caribbean.
The new one? Oh yeah,
the Stranger Tides one, where that like missionary is kind to the mermaid, and then she pulls him down to the bottom of the ocean.
As they do.
Oh man. So a couple of the other like mythologies that we found around mermaids while we were looking, because again, they stem from nearly everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, how many examples and stories have we given you in like the last 10 minutes?
Right? And so one of them is the Norse mythologies. So in the Norse mythologies, they are called the Nykur.
Nykur.
And they were water spirits that often appeared as handsome young men or a horse. So again, transformations. In some stories, the Nykur transformed into mermaid-like creatures. So it wasn't like even a permanent thing. And the Nykur are known for luring people, especially children, into the water to drown them. It symbolizes the dangers and the mystery of water. And very true. Water is really mysterious because all you can ever see is the surface of it. And
right.
There's fathoms beneath of mystery and creatures and dangers and treasure.
Well, you can't even breathe in there.
Exactly.
Like, you can't explore it as
freely
as we can explore anything else.
Right.
Like, to me, the ocean and space are very similar in the depths and curiosities that are there, because there's only so much you as a human being can really experience and explore without like major harm.
The other myth that I was thinking of that I came across was, I believe it was a Scandinavian country, and they were whales.
Oh, okay.
And when they would come to the shore, they would have to shed their whale skin. It would like unzip or something, or they would step out of it and they would leave it, and then they could travel the earth as a human. So they weren't like half fish in the sense of physically.
Yeah.
It was almost like they emerged from this whale. And the stories that I read there were these creatures were often captured, or like their whale skins were held hostage and they couldn't return to the ocean until they liberated their whale skins. I forgot
Makes
what they were
sense.
called, but
There's so many variations of mermaids as well, because there is the Nicor, is that what we decided to call them?
Nicor.
The Nicor. I've seen that depicted as like cute ponies, like little cute ponies that are just prancing around, like, come swim with us, kids, it's fun.
Yeah.
And then they ended up, drowning and
Makes me
being
think
eaten.
of fairies.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And again, it's in that world of mysticism where sometimes they're seen as these beautiful beings, loving and kind and almost human-like.
But there's danger there.
But then there's
that
danger
lurks.
there, especially with the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to get into this one with African folklore. So they call them mamiwata. And again, associated with fertility, prosperity, healing. It was one specific mermaid that they really believed in, kind of like a goddess of the ocean. And she was very feared, but also very respected. Very much so, just like you would respect and love the ocean and the sea. And she had the power to grant wealth and abundance, but also cause misfortune and death and disease.
Okay.
Which, especially if you're living on the shores of Africa, that makes so much sense.
The shores anywhere. Your livelihood depends on
The water and how
Yeah.
much fish will come in, or if you're searching for pearls or anything like that. It's wild how much these stories can travel and how universal they can feel.
with similar themes between them all. Yeah.
I do want to touch on Japan in the story of Ponyo in the Ghibli film.
Yeah, our girls love Ponyo, but our girls love mermaids.
Who
to that
doesn't
later.
love mermaids?
We'll get to that later.
We'll get to that later. Talking about Japanese stories, there is fish with human faces are meant to be very cursed and will bring storms and will bring misfortune. But in many stories, they also bring, again, similar themes of love and abundance and a family. And it's so funny to me when I think of Ponyo. If you've seen the film, one of the older ladies is like, oh my gosh, it's a fish with a face. Send it back. Send it back.
Yeah.
And she does actually transform into this little girl and she's welcomed into this new family and this new home. And she does bring this massive storm that destroys the whole town.
In the film, I think she says, throw back, fish with faces cause tsunamis.
Yep, they do.
And then it literally floods the whole.
But she doesn't even care. She's just running on the waves. Life's great.
I'm here.
I love Sosuke.
Oh, man. So I was looking at the Greek myths, because as I do, but it was interesting because mermaids get associated with sirens.
Yeah, all the
lot.
time.
And I found that very interesting because sirens are female entities, but in like Homer's Odyssey, sirens are bird-like creatures.
Yeah.
They're half woman, half bird. They would fly around and they sing these beautiful songs, luring sailors to the rocks.
Like a bird.
Yeah, but then they would also be vicious like birds too at the same time. And it was interesting because the bird siren did slowly shift into a mermaid type siren. Not so much in Greek mythology, but in like New World exploration mythology.
Yeah.
It really seems to make that shift of sirens aren't these half bird women. It's mermaid women.
Yes. Well, and it's interesting you say that because the first time I ever heard of sirens was in the great epic story of Sinbad.
Okay.
And Sinbad, it's very similar to an Odyssey kind of story where he goes on this massive journey, has all these different trials, different monsters, trying to get back home to
I
save
never
his
saw
friend.
Sinbad, so I wouldn't know.
No, it's great. I mean, the DreamWorks movie is fantastic, but
Wouldn't
like
know.
even the legend, the story is very similar to
I
the
don't
Odyssey.
know Sinbad.
I think you'd enjoy it.
I probably would. I don't like there's nothing rattling up here when that name comes up.
So the interesting thing with sirens in this story is that they are basically water creatures, but they don't even have a form really. They just hypnotize the sailors of the boat to the point where they can't drive anymore. They think they're seeing these women. They think they're
Like a
seeing these
mirage.
things. Uh-huh.
Okay.
But then it just ends up pushing them into the rocks and destroying. And then they end up eating the men that fall into the ocean.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah. I mean, maybe that's some guy's fantasy somewhere.
I'm sure it's a kink.
It's gotta be. The kink episode's gotta come soon. But I guess that's also just another theme with women in general, is just like this. And with the moon also, this flip side of beauty and emotion and femininity, but then also danger and seduction and
mystery.
And
And it's
Dark
almost
side of the
like
moon.
it can't be trusted. Like it can be admired and goggled at, but don't get too close.
Don't get cocky, kid.
Yeah, don't get too close. It'll sink you. It'll pull you to the bottom of the ocean.
So going on to more New World explorers, one of the most prevalent sightings was actually by John Smith.
There it is.
Like Pocahontas, Virginia, John Smith, right?
Radcliffe and the little dog and
No. Not the Disney version. The English adventurer John Smith. Jamestown Colony. So he reportedly saw a mermaid off the coast in Newfoundland. So this is in the Americas. He described her as having these large eyes and this fine shaped nose and formed ears. That's what he's interested in, I guess. But
it's the ears.
It's the ears, man.
I mean, yeah, if gym class heroes taught me anything, it's all about kissing ears. No one will get that reference.
But he had a this is my favorite little thing because he had a very detailed description of her. These are just like some of the highlights, but by no means was unattractive. That is
his quote.
His quotes. By no means unattractive. So it was a relatively positive description of this mermaid. This just romanticized the idea of it with all the sailors and all the new...
That they were just beautiful. You know, but they were also like on boats for months at a time.
Right? With just
with
a bunch
no
of
women
stinky dudes.
And drinking nothing but alcohol because the water would go bad. So, oh man, another historical sighting is of Blackbeard, the pirate, like infamous Blackbeard, scary
He's
Blackbeard.
real, guys.
He's real.
He do be real.
He definitely is.
As real as John Smith, anyway.
So he actually had orders for his crew to avoid certain charted waters because he feared mermaid infestations in different areas, right? He considered these waters dangerous due to the supposed presence of mermaids and sirens. Again, that combination of really them becoming one.
Do you think this is just like... Sorry, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent.
Tangent away.
Could this just be visions of men with like massive seasickness?
I mean, it could be.
Like just like hallucinations?
I mean, mermaid sightings are not nearly as prevalent as they are now, as they were back in the day. We're not on boats for months at a time.
No, it doesn't
And so
take
it
us.
could be that too, because now we fly over the ocean, or we're on cruises where, you know, you're 12 stories up from the actual water level.
Yeah, you're on a big hotel in the
Yeah,
water.
you're not really looking at the ocean every minute of every day. But Blackbeard feared mermaids so much that it really cemented that lore of navigating different marine areas to avoid them out of the danger. This belief really influenced pirate culture and navigation strategies.
Pirate culture.
Pirates definitely had a culture.
I know. I don't know why I see it like
There was a code. There be a code.
There be a code. I don't know. I just see it like cultural days at school where you've got like Hispanic culture, pioneer heritage, pirate culture.
It'll be the 25th of July. We'll all just wear eye patches and go, arr. But it cemented the sailing routes that the pirates would take, because they were always on the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're afraid that some beautiful woman is gonna sing you and lure you into death, I don't know, that's scary.
That is scary. Well, not to mention, I don't know, the idea of just being out in open water for who knows how long.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe I'm
So
just
much can happen.
Right, so much can happen. Even just a storm can destroy you. But the idea of like, hey, these are the safe paths. This is the way to go. It doesn't matter if it's a mermaid or not. Like, why take the chance? Like, why take that risk? Oh my goodness. It's so funny because it's even talking about Blackbeard that seems so like fairy tale far-fetched.
Yeah.
But this is really old history we're talking about.
And the thing with it is these histories were different. Like we didn't have the internet back then. So it was word of mouth. It was, you know, a verbal history.
Sea shanties.
It was songs and poems and, I mean, you've played telephone in elementary school.
If you're cool.
I mean, without fail, there's always that one dummy who just completely changes the message. You're like all so determined. We're going to get it this time. And there's one kid in the middle. Shoes. The message was breakfast. Like, that can happen really easily.
Darn it, Dennis.
It's always a Dennis. Oh, man. But really, mermaids have still persisted to this day.
They have. Even if they're not seen as these terrors of the ocean or these treacherous things, they've become these beautiful symbols and archetypes.
You would say.
Oh. Wow. It's like we're reading the same outline or something.
I just like the word archetype.
Rehearsal tracks.
I know her.
I know her. We got married because we met in her show.
It all comes around.
It all
Full
comes
circle.
around. And we've kind of touched on these symbols and archetypes a bit just in mermaid history, but so much duality, both being human and creature, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because we don't fish. Water creature.
They have to have gills.
Do they?
I mean, they're not coming up to air like dolphins.
I don't know. Ariel's up on the shore all the time.
And she is ridiculed for it.
It's because she's a redhead.
Ostracized. Ouch. My hair's not that red.
Not tomato red.
Right? Fire engine.
But human aquatic beauty and danger, seduction and purity. There's
Life
so
and
much.
death.
Life and death.
The fact that they can heal. And mermaids, I was reading about their mystical properties, like their powers, their magics.
Yeah.
They scry. They can see the
course they
future,
do.
right? Because they swim down to the depths of the ocean where the water is still, and they can look into these reflective pools and see what's going to happen. They also have the power to control the water. They can whip up storms. They can whip up waves. They can make the tides strong or weak.
They can communicate with sea creatures to do their bidding, to do their will.
They have that transformation aspect. So many stories, mermaids are able to transform with and have legs.
Yeah.
And come onto the earth.
Which is why the Starbucks cup has the mermaids, and it looks, if you look at it, it has like two fins, so it looks like she's almost split down the middle.
Yeah, she's like doing the splits and she's touching her ears with her
Well,
fin
that's
tips.
because she's mid-transformation. So she's literally, think of
peeling
it like
off.
like a zipper. It's like peeling off. So she's got two sides of the fin and legs are coming out of the bottom.
Oh, I didn't ever see the legs. I just saw like the split fin.
Well, no, and the reason, I mean, you don't ever see that on the Starbucks image, but in a lot of like ancient depictions of it, it is the mermaid has both the fin and the legs because they are coming onto the shore, and that's when people would see them. Or like, I don't know how many painters would go just hanging out on the boats very often. So
I don't know, probably not often.
Probably
At least
not
not with
often.
their easels and oils.
hanging out with Blackbeard.
Whatever. They would be all over the place. They wouldn't have a consistent brush stroke or anything. Oh, no, the cool thing I wanted to get into is Carl Jung actually talks about the symbology and the psychological perspective.
Remember the Shadow Journal? This guy wrote that.
Oh, he's also the founder of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. He's
worth a Google.
He's legit. Yeah, you should look up Carl Jung. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but it's spelled with a J, but it sounds like Young. Anyhow.
Jung.
So he says that mermaids are an anima figure. So, and he based this on the notion of the unconscious as the sea. So the same way that the sea, you can see just the surface. You can't even begin to comprehend its depths.
Right.
That's the unconscious mind. So Jung develops several interpretations of mermaid archetypes. He interpreted that the mermaid is an anima, and as an alchemical metaphor that refers to the transformative structure of the unconscious and the process of coming to consciousness. And he called that individualization.
Huh. How many mermaid fairy tales are all about becoming an individual?
Yeah, and it's funny because there's many themes in mythology of creatures below that try to ascend to the living world. And it's funny because like we live on the living world, and so like they're trying to be us, and it's like no. The story is they are us trying to ascend to the higher planes. That's the deeper lesson here. It's not about getting out of hell.
No. You're already there. This is the bad place.
This is the bad place.
This is the bad place.
Anyways, an anima is, he would describe it saying, an anima is a woman within the psyche of a man or an individual, a human, who conveys the vital messages of the self. The anima is a personification of all feminine psychological tendencies in a person's psyche, such as vague feelings, so intuition, moods, emotions, prophetic hunches, more intuition, and being like in tune with those higher vibrations, as Abraham Hicks would call it, receptiveness to the irrational, capacity for personal love, feelings for nature, and last but definitely not least, his relationship to the unconscious. So Jung says that mermaids, if you see them or are drawn to them, or they're even like sticking out to you, you know, like some people see hummingbirds all the time, some people see butterflies all the time. It's like, what is the universe trying to speak to you? And so if you were really drawn to mermaids, it is that transformative nature of, okay, there's something in my subconscious, but I need to feel, I need to have intuition. They really do represent the feminine energies in so many different ways, the divine feminine energies, which is so funny because man, the left brain logical man, is so scared. I mean, how many times do we hear people call women irrational? Like it's an insult. Like being rational is the most divine thing that a human can hope for. But when you're purely rational, you're cutting off your intuition. You're like, I must think it, and it must be a logical process, and it has to follow the scientific method in order for it to be even considered as truth.
It's a great way to survive.
I mean, it's what our world is built on.
Sure.
And so it is something that we have to really use to survive in this world. But yeah, the feminine energies are so repressed in society and culture and this reality. And it's cool because I think they're making a comeback.
Absolutely.
I think the divine feminine is definitely waking up to a different level right now.
Well, and it's interesting because not only is it divine feminine energy just for women as a whole, but I feel like men or masculine presenting people really cut off that femininity.
Yeah.
Cut off that feminine energy because it's too girly or whatever. But in reality, you have to have both your masculine and your feminine energies to be a whole being. And vice versa for women. You do have to have some rationality. You do have to have some discipline and routine, but balance. The way of the Buddha.
It is all balance, and it's really coming to that understanding. I don't know, you looked this up, so you have the notes on it, but dreams.
Yes.
I really love dreams right now.
Oh my gosh, dreams are so interesting.
I'm obsessed with them.
So it's interesting to talk about the subconscious, or the unconscious, if you want to call it that.
Both.
Because that's what a lot of dreams are interpreted to be, is what your subconscious mind is thinking about, or what your subconscious mind is trying to tell you in your waking life. Excuse me. Wow. Feelings. So mermaids in dream analysis are really prevalent, and they're a lot more common than you think. It's one of the top 10 things that people dream about is mermaids.
Really? Okay.
So a mermaid in a dream represents your inner desires and emotions. It can indicate longing for freedom, independence, or exploration. It is that longing. I think of, guys, I'm such a nerd. I think of that moment in Little Mermaid in Part of Your World where she reaches out to the shore with that light. It's just that longing, that desire, that goal that you have in your subconscious brain wanting to go towards that. Alternatively, it can symbolize fear of the unknown or a sense of being trapped in a situation. Especially if you're a human being in a dream interpreted that you are underwater, that you're stuck under the water.
Yeah.
That trapped feeling can be really terrifying. But if you want to think on it on an analytical level, okay, this mermaid was in my dream. What could that mean? Was she swimming freely? Was she trapped in the dark? This can give insight to what you may be feeling subconsciously just by really diving in to
Oh, punny.
I know. I embarrassed myself.
You're beautiful.
Thank you. It can really give you insight on what your subconscious is trying to tell you. And if it is something as whimsical as a mermaid in your dream, and especially if it's a reoccurring theme, it's just your subconscious trying to tell you something, and something that is trying to tell you something in a way that you can recognize and be more aware of. I think.
Love that. I'm a firm believer that we all know the answers to our problems.
Oh, we do.
We just reject them because we don't like the answer. And in our dreams, the subconscious will start screaming at you in these repeated themes. So if you're dreaming about something on a repetitive basis, it's, really trying to get your attention. And mermaids being transformative and very dualistic. I mean, this gets into the symbolism of, I would call it the esoteric or the spiritual meaning behind mermaids, is they are half human, half animal. And so we can learn from them, because are we not half human and half animal?
Yeah.
What part of us is running the show right now? Is it our animal part or is it our human part? And if you say human right out of the gate, are you sure? How do you know? How are you sure? These are the themes that mermaids can help you unlock, and the way that they really are guides through the subconscious. There is a lot of stuff that you don't really understand in your subconscious. So if you are awake, alive, your breathing is remembered in one form or another. Even if you have no memory of it, in your logical mind, it locks down into the subconscious. I know a lot of people have read The Body Keeps the Score. A lot of people have even started looking at childhood traumas and what all that entails.
Watching Inside Out.
Watching Inside Out. With that, mermaids, they're really showing you, and like Ariel, they're really kind of teaching you, like, hey, I want to be part of this higher world. I want to leave this antiquated reality behind. I want to evolve. I want to ascend. I think it's no coincidence that she's reaching up in that part of your world segment. She's not outward or down. It is very clearly above her, almost to the heavens. Anyways, I could go on about this stuff for quite some time and devolve into a whole nother topic.
It's so crazy, because I think everybody on a subconscious level has a low-key obsession with mermaids.
They do.
It's such a popular thing, and it's such a happy theme for many people. Like, of course, we have Little Mermaid from Disney, which is one of the highest grossing animated films of all time.
Right. I bought our oldest a Lego set.
Oh my gosh.
Literally yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I needed it to have free shipping on Amazon. And then I felt bad. I'm like, oh, I should get a Lego set for my second daughter. And her favorite princess is Ariel. And 5 times as much.
Yeah.
Every Ariel Lego set was like the cheapest one. It was literally 5 times as much as what I got my first daughter.
She's a mermaid. She's a mermaid.
You're like, this is common sense, Aaron. And I'm like, they're all Legos and they're all princesses. They should all be equal.
Not a lot of Lego princesses are equal. But no, that's why, and this is just my Disney knowledge coming in. That's why there's always a priority for Ariel. She's always in the parks, at least in one location. You can always meet Ariel. She's one of the most beloved characters of all time. And I think that's why there's so much controversy when the live action came out and it wasn't the same as the red-headed Jodie Benson 80s inspired.
It makes sense though, because like our children, they believe in magic.
They do.
Like a different level of magic,
believe in magic
than we do though.
Yeah.
They have the holiday magic that we supplant for them.
Yeah.
And I think mermaids, because of that mysterious nature of the ocean, there's really no way to prove it or disprove it.
No, there isn't.
And so it's something that you can hold on to and believe in for a long time, like well beyond your belief in Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy.
Oh, absolutely. Because it is. When you grow up, you realize, oh, my teeth fall out and parents take it away.
It's not magic. Yeah.
But it's not like... I'm such a nerd, guys.
We love it.
Once upon a time, I was in a trip to California, and I buried a toy in the sand.
Okay.
Right. So I buried a toy in the sand. The ocean pulled it away because obviously it does that. And I wasn't old enough to realize that was going to happen. And so my toy got swept away. I was super sad about it. And then we were walking on the shore, me being devastated. And this little charm bracelet came up on the ocean, like onto the waves. And so my mom helped me pick it up, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's a gift from a mermaid. She was trading you because you gave her your toy, so she made you something."
Aww.
And that, I think I still have that bracelet in my little childhood box in my shed.
That's so cute.
But it's one of those like little magical things where I will never know if there wasn't a mermaid hanging out there, or if my mom was just being super sweet and like found something and threw it on the sand for me. Like I will never know, and I will cling to that. And ever since, anytime I go to the beach or the pool, I pretend I'm a mermaid in the water, and I'm 5 years old, because that was just such a magical little memory for me.
I love that. The world is literally as magical as you believe it to be.
It is. It absolutely is.
You will find what you believe in. And so, yeah, I mean, I know people that still believe in Bigfoot, and I mean, I'm not this big Bigfoot denier, this big Bigfoot enthusiast, but it's like, I have no idea. There's whatever.
None.
Who knows? The world is full of mysteries.
Right.
And who am I to want to solve all the mysteries and take out all the wonder with pure hard fact?
That's the thing. I have never met Justin Bieber. I've never seen him. I don't know if he's real. I'm sure
He could be Bigfoot.
He could be Bigfoot. He could be a mermaid. Who knows? But just because somebody's told me that they've seen them, or if I've seen pictures of him, I don't know. I can't prove that until I see it.
The world is full of mystery.
It's full of mystery.
One thing that I really wanted to talk on before we move on from The Little Mermaid is the queer coding.
Yes. Oh
behind
my
it.
gosh.
Just
guys.
with mermaids representing the feminine nature and the feminine divine nature in so many different ways. And it's funny, when I served my mission in the Philippines, calling somebody queer, you would call them a mermaid. It was the same. Like, you mermaid. That was like slang for queer.
Oh, man.
In the Philippines. But it is because it is usually such a feminine energy to be living in the water, in the ocean, this very emotional element, you know? And even when Hans Christian Andersen wrote The Little Mermaid, it was in response to him falling in love with his best friend.
Yeah.
Who then denied him, rejected him, and married a woman, which, who knows? Like, I don't know the details of the story, but it devastated the author. It devastated Hans Christian Andersen. I think it's fireworks. We're getting close to the 24th, so they can start shooting them off.
Yeah, in Utah, they have a pioneer holiday where you can do fireworks midway through July.
It's wonderful.
As long as that's what they are, it's not something more sinister.
Yeah, I don't think it's sinister. Anyways, so yeah, he wrote this song about The Little Mermaid, and The Little Mermaid, the true story of it is very tragic. I know a lot of people have spoken on it, and so I hopefully you're familiar with it. But not only does she lose her voice, but when she walks, every step is like walking on glass.
Yeah.
And she has to get the prince to fall in love with her. That's true. But the prince tells her a few days in, like, hey, I'm going to marry this other woman.
Yeah, he was already in love. Well, she was already in love with somebody else.
And so the Little Mermaid is devastated and heartbroken, and her sisters make this second deal with the sea witch and bring this knife up and say, hey, if you kill him in his sleep, that's your way out. He doesn't love you. You're not going to pass the test.
Yeah.
It's failure. If you kill him in his sleep, then you can return and live with us. And she refuses, throws herself into the ocean and becomes sea foam. Yeah. So many mermaid stories end in heartbreak, especially when they fall in love with mortal men.
Oh, especially then. Well, it's that freaking Bible verse, like, a bird may love a fish, but where would they build a home together? And that's one reason why it's very queer coded, I feel, is it has that despair and heartbreak of love that has happened to so many people. And I think that's such a relatable thing. It's so funny. I completely forgot about this one. Do you remember Splash?
No, I never saw Splash.
I watched it for the first time this last year.
Jodie Benson's in it?
No. How dare you? How very dare you? How very dare you? It's a Tom Hanks film.
Oh.
Oh,
Call the Academy.
Call the a very young Tom Hanks. And I actually don't know the girl, But again,
she's blonde, right? With curly hair.
very long blonde.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot more nudity in a PG film than I was ready for.
There you go.
But anyway, it's just that constant romance story. There's so many romance stories within mermaids, and it's
always a romance
it's
story.
always a romance. Aquamarine, it's another romance. It's
Even in the Stranger Tides of Pirates of the Caribbean,
Yeah.
it's this little romance side
it is.
hustle.
I was just thinking of Mermaidia, the Barbie movie. That ended up being a romance too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that one. There's lots of mermaids, guys. They're everywhere. Ooh, although, okay, so when I'm thinking of all these mermaids, they're super beautiful, long flowing hair, gorgeous like beta fish fins, you know, very pretty. The first time I saw like a scary mermaid on screen was in Harry Potter.
Yeah, those were terrifying.
Those were really scary. Where they had like the long, creepy teeth and these massive eyes and these spears.
I mean, it makes sense. They have less light.
They have less light. They're living in the bottom of the ocean. Right. You know, it makes sense. But there's a lot more. There's like mermaid horror films, actually, and it's a very prevalent thing. It's really interesting to see the duality between these beautiful mermaids and these terrifying mermaids. And I mean, we could go off on a whole other episode on that and the female aesthetic and how feminine rage and romance can be interpreted.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, feminine rage is terrifying.
We do be scary.
It is definitely scary. So why would you say people are drawn to mermaids? I would say it's the mystery.
I would say it's the mystery. I think it's also the magic. People are just drawn to these mystical things that just make them feel hope and wonder.
And yeah, connection to the ocean as well. Like they can live freely down there in the ocean bottoms.
Exactly.
Where we've just like explored nothing basically.
Well, and I think
we're still searching for Atlantis. Like that's like the hardest thing in the world to
discover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even just going down to like the Titanic. It's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Because the ocean is terrifying.
Dangerous.
Excuse me. I think it's also really interesting because people have connections with the ocean itself. I think there's such a massive emotional and spiritual draw to different parts of nature. And many people, that is the ocean. That's where they feel peace. That's where they can feel power. That's where they connect to themselves or to the earth.
Yeah.
So I think that's...
And the ocean's so healing.
It's so healing.
It is. And even just ocean noises for meditation or sleep sounds is one of the most soothing, calming sounds for us.
Exactly. So if you can connect to that spiritually... just because you have a mermaid figurine in your house or you have jewelry or whatever.
Yeah.
Mermaid core, I didn't realize I knew it was like a thing, but I didn't realize how popular it was this year.
Oh, really?
It's wild. It's like one of the biggest wedding trends of this summer is like mermaid jewelry and wedding designs and aesthetic. Like people are very obsessed with this mermaid style
I had
right
no
now.
idea, but you do you. That's great.
Right? It's like you do you. I love that. I wear seashells all the time. I think it's I'm a witch though, so there's also another thing that is so crazy that wasn't as actually I can't say that it wasn't popular back in the day, but you can go and meet mermaids. You can meet these like mermaid swimmer cosplayer. You can have birthday parties and have people come swim in these beautiful fins. And that's magical because, I don't know, it's a whole other level. Like you can meet a Disney princess and that's pretty cute and fun. But like to have a birthday party and have a mermaid swimming in your backyard, that would be insane.
Yeah, and they're like at aquariums.
Oh yeah, they're aquariums. They are all over the place. 4-year-old me would freak out. And they free dive.
Yeah, I've seen that it's pretty dangerous actually.
It really is because anyone can buy these fins, but they're extremely difficult to get in and out of. And they're also extremely difficult to actually swim in. I've only tried on one. And it is so much core energy. And when you're trying to breathe and move your whole body with your core.
Yeah, you're like dolphin swimming.
Yeah, you're dolphin swimming.
Yeah.
I actually hurt my neck really bad doing it because I was trying to like do this whole motion with it just to get...
You're worming in the water.
You're worming in the water, basically. And then you can't get out of it and it's heavy. So it can be really dangerous for a lot of people.
That makes sense.
But it's fun.
It's magical.
It's magic, guys.
No, that's great. So, anyways, I hope you've enjoyed our deep dive into mermaids. We really enjoyed doing this. It was fascinating just learning how widespread the mythology was.
So widespread.
Across all cultures and peoples and ethnicities. There's mermaid stories and lore across it all.
Yeah. Message us with more stories, because I would love all the mermaid stories for days and days.
Exactly. And yeah, so before we wrap things all up, what is our challenge for everyone?
So mermaid challenge for this week.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the subconscious and unconscious and even mermaids in dreams. So challenge of this week is, what influences have mermaids ever had in your life? Have you ever had that in a subconscious dream or anything like that? Have you seen the symbolism in your life, and what has that meant to you? Has it meant anything to you?
Yeah.
And if it has, maybe take a minute to ponder or journal or think about it. Or if you're just in a swimming pool, go and do like a little aerial mermaid flip on the
There you go, there's your challenge.
Just embody that.
Mermaid flip it. Hair flip mermaid toss.
Hair flip mermaid toss.
Oh, man. No, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you learned something new. This was fun. I definitely learned something new. Did you learn something new?
Of course I did. I always do. It's so wonderful. John Smith saw a mermaid. She was not unattractive.
But, you know, I'll stop there.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Thanks for just giving us your energy in the space. You're wonderful. Stay curious. Just keep swimming.
You got this.